Hey y'all, my name is Rebecca Morse, and I am a domestic violence therapist at a center that is dedicated to domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. As most of you are aware, or maybe not aware, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And my goal here today is to inform and teach all of you the differences between common myths of sexual assault and the actual truths. The first myth that I most hear commonly is that most sexual assaults are committed by strangers. While this myth can be comforting to people who are scared of being assaulted, just because it puts that assault in a more controllable category, almost as if, oh, if I don't walk alone at night, nobody can jump out of the bushes and assault me. The reality is that 90% of assaults are from someone the survivor has met or known before, and someone who typically has authority or power over the survivor. And so when we talk about authority or power over the survivor, we mean serial rapists tend to use this position to discredit individuals and force them, witnesses, friends, family, and society to second guess what has happened to the survivor. In most cases, these positions of authority can be being male, being white, holding a prestigious position such as a doctor to a patient, being a parent to a child, or being an older relative to a younger one. And these positions have been ingrained as positions that you do not question or say no to. And this really helps the perpetrators because society immediately questions the survivor's statements. Like, oh, that couldn't happen. Your dad couldn't assault you. Your doctor couldn't molest you. These are people that are put in society to protect you. Especially in cases where the survivor is very familiar with the perpetrator, you hear a lot of, oh, you know them so well. How could you not see that they were dangerous all these years? How could you keep going to their house or keep going to them as a physician if they were this dangerous person? One recent infamous example is that of Dr. Larry Nassar from Michigan State University and the Olympic gymnastics team. Over 3 decades, Larry was allowed access to children due to his doctor status, and since then, over 150 survivors have come forward to shed light on what he has been doing in the shadows. Multiple times during these 3 decades, adults were informed of what Larry was doing, but because of his prestige and university status, most survivors were ignored or flat out informed it wasn't possible he couldn't be doing that. I am now going to play a clip from a victim impact statement one of his survivors gave at his court hearing.
I met Larry Nassar when I was somewhere around the age of 5 years old. My parents had become close friends with Larry and his wife Stephanie. They were all medical professionals and shared a passion for the subject. It was during this time, I estimate I was approximately 6 years old, that Larry Nassar began to sexually abuse me. I was 12 years old when I told my parents, when Larry rubs my feet, he uses his penis. My parents confronted him and he denied any such action. Due to complex details that I won't get into here, my parents chose to believe Larry Nassar over me. Larry Nassar's actions had already caused me significant anguish, but I hurt worse as I watched my father realize what he had put me through. My father and I did our best to patch up our tattered relationship before he committed suicide in 2016. Larry Nassar wedged himself between myself and my family and used his leverage as my parents' trusted friend to pry us apart until we fractured.
The next common myth I hear is that all sexual assault victims will report their crime immediately to the police if it's a real assault. And if they delay or don't want to report it, then they either change their minds after they had sex or they just want attention. In reality, there are many reasons why survivors don't report, such as a fear of retaliation, what the perpetrator, family, friends, society might do if they do end up reporting. Maybe they reported to a different official, such as a teacher, a parent, some other authority figure, and sometimes through those disclosures, it doesn't go well. They're not believed, things happen, and so that stops them from continuing the process. Belief that the police would not or could not do anything to help, the thought that they did not want their perpetrator to get in trouble with the law, they didn't want their family or others to know, not enough proof in their eyes or in the eyes of the legal system. A lot of times if I didn't fight back, if there's no scratches, I can't prove that this happened. Fear of the justice system is huge for minorities, people of color, people that have had bad experiences with the legal system. There's just that fear of reporting in general. And a lot of people don't know how to report, never have had to report, never talked about it before, and unsure about their perpetrator's intent. So what was their perpetrator really trying to do? Were they really trying to rape me? Were they not? Things like that. A lot of second guessing can get in a survivor's way of wanting to report. And sometimes they just don't want to report. They just don't want people to know what happened, and that's okay too. These are just a couple of tweets that I found under the hashtag why I didn't report, and this helps shed light on why these survivors decided not to report. The next common myth I hear is that it's only rape if the survivor puts up a fight and or resists. If the survivor doesn't say no or doesn't act out, then they wanted the assault. While most people are familiar with the fight and flight responses, there's actually a third evolutionary response called freeze. During an assault, a survivor's body goes into survival mode and attempts to protect itself. This attempt at protection results in shutting down the survivor's higher functioning thinking, which allows the body to do what it must to survive this traumatic experience. Once a survivor's body recognizes danger, it immediately begins pumping chemicals throughout the body, which, to use a car metaphor, is the equivalent of pushing the accelerator and the brakes at the same time. This immobility can sometimes result in the accelerator winning out, and the survivor will then go into their flight response. But a good chunk of the time, the accelerator and brake remain locked, and the survivor can only endure the assault to guarantee their safety. This clip highlights a gazelle during a traumatic event, and we can see its freeze response take over. This is how paralyzing the body can be when survival is on the line. Although there are definitely more myths than what I'm covering in this video, the final common myth of this video is that only young, pretty women are assaulted. Men, older women, children can't be assaulted. They're not attractive. You know, the older the people are, they aren't sexual. Children, they aren't sexualized. They can't be assaulted. I've heard less and less of this myth throughout the various campaigns of bringing unique survivors' voices to the table, such as male survivors, elderly survivors, and child survivors. But it still perpetuates this belief that sexual assault is based on attraction. Sexual assault is not determined by the attractiveness of the survivor. It is based on power. Many people hold to the stereotypical responses of, oh, what were they wearing? What were they doing? Oh, they were basically asking for it. When in reality, no article of clothing or drink will turn someone into a rapist. A perpetrator is already going into the situation wanting to control someone, which is why every gender demographic, every socioeconomic status, every age, and every moral belief is at risk of being assaulted. These pictures were taken from an exhibit titled, "What Were You Wearing?", which demonstrates the clothing items each survivor was wearing when they were assaulted. These articles of clothing and statements are extremely impactful on showing people that it doesn't matter how attractive or unattractive someone is perceived as, a perpetrator will assault them because a perpetrator wanted to have power and control over them. So I wanted to take the time to thank you all for listening to this video and possibly learning more about sexual assault and why it really does happen. I just wanted to leave this last screen up. This is the place that I work. It's Cadillac Oasis Family Resource Center. And if anything has come up for you, or if you have more questions for us and you are local in the area, you can always give our crisis line a call. It's available 24/7. And also our website is on there too if you want to look more into it. But I just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time, and it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so hopefully you're building awareness and being an ally to survivors, or spreading some kindness and compassion to yourself if you are a survivor. I guess just thank you in general. Hope you guys have a good one. Bye.